Welcome to St. Leonard's Community Services e-learning seminar on conflict resolution in the workplace. St. Leonard's Community Services employment services are funded through Employment Ontario. Please be sure that you have your speakers or headphones on and are able to hear the narration of this seminar. Throughout this self-directed e-learning seminar, you will learn about conflict, what it is, where it happens, and what can cause it, your personal conflict management style, and understanding the various styles of other people, and the tools and strategies to help navigate and manage conflict more effectively in the workplace. When thinking about your own experience of conflict, whether in your personal or professional life, consider the quote from philosopher and psychologist William James. Whenever you're in conflict with someone, there is one factor that can make the difference between damaging your relationship and deepening it. That factor is attitude. It is a fact that conflict can happen in many ways, many places, and for many different reasons. But how a person handles that conflict can directly affect the relationship with another person. To begin to understand what conflict is requires a definition. Conflict is defined as being a difference that prevents agreement between people. This could be a disagreement of feelings, needs, wants, internal or external driving forces, or opposing principles, values, or opinions. While most people would regard conflict as a negative experience, it can also be a positive one. Conflict is neither a good or a bad thing. Conflict is a neutral concept. How someone feels about a conflict is all based on their perception of the situation. Conflict is inevitable, as all people share different perceptions, opinions, and feeling when communicating with others. When individuals attempt to look at conflict as an experience that offers opportunities for growth or positive change, it allows us to understand that without conflict, there is no real motivation for change in any aspect of our lives. Conflict can be created through minor incidents, misunderstandings, and disagreements in any area of life. The overall goal of this seminar is to explore ways to move through conflict in a healthy manner by learning the various tools and strategies to help express yourself effectively in conflictual situations, opening yourself up to hearing and understanding others and their perspectives, and building your skills to face future conflicts with confidence. Let's explore some areas where conflicts commonly occur. Think of all the places where you see conflict in your own personal experiences. Conflict may take the form of a disagreement between coworkers in the workplace, or could happen between a supervisor and a staff member who disagree on their performance, job duties, or company policies and procedures. You may see conflict in school, whether it is an argument between students on the schoolyard or a student challenging a teacher's lecture in a college classroom. We regularly see conflicts that occur at home, online, and even in the grocery store. When you take a moment to reflect on where conflict happens, you begin to see that it is a natural thing that occurs anywhere people may be at any time. Identifying the places where conflict occurs allows us to understand and predict conflicts easier and to develop strategies ahead of time to help us handle conflicts when they happen. Workplace conflicts are a common problem. Unfortunately, conflicts in the workplace lead to a number of issues. Not only for the individual employee, but the actions of staff can negatively impact the business as a whole. Conflict in the workplace can lead to negative behaviors such as verbal or physical fighting, lower workplace productivity, job-related stress, employee dissatisfaction, gossip, harassment, and workplace bullying, and high turnover rates. To understand how to minimize the negative impact of conflict in the workplace, we must first understand our own personal conflict management style. Every individual person has their own unique way of handling conflict. In the early 1970s, two psychologists named Kenneth Thomas and Ralph Kilman developed a theory called the Thomas-Kilman model. This model identifies how individuals prefer to handle conflict using a short quiz. There are varying styles of how people manage conflict that can change depending on the individual and the different situations people encounter. No one style is better than another. In fact, being adaptable to different circumstances and situations is a strength when facing conflict. The quiz is a self-reflection and learning tool used to gauge your conflict management style based on the answers you provide for the situational questions and answers you give today. The score you receive on this quiz may change depending on how you perceive the situations at this time. It is possible to prefer one or more conflict management styles one day and receive different results at a later time. At this point in the seminar, you will need the handout provided to you titled, "What is your conflict management style?" While you complete the quiz, make sure you read the questions through carefully. When answering the questions, remember to answer based on how you actually behave or react in the situation described, not how you think you should act. Select the answer you think describes you best and write the number that corresponds with that answer in the correct column. For example, question A states, "I argue my case with peers, colleagues, and coworkers to demonstrate the merits of the position I take." If you feel you do this very often, write a number 2 under the very often column in the question A row as shown in the example pictured. Now that you've completed the questions, it's time to score your quiz and get your results. Using the numbers from the question portion of the quiz, write your answers in the scoring box as shown in the example pictured. For example, if your answer to question A was very often, which is the number 2, write the number 2 in the scoring box next to the A. Follow the steps until all of your answers have been transferred into the scoring box. It is important to be aware that the letters in the scoring box are not in alphabetical order. Be sure to take care in transferring your answers. The next step is to add up the numbers for each category in the scoring box: CS, CO, AT, ATB, and CF. Don't worry about what those letters mean yet. We will decode your results in a moment. Record your dominant style, which is your lowest score, and your backup style, which is your second lowest score, in the results section. In the event that you have a tie or equal answers, write your 2 lowest scores in the results section. Remember, it is not uncommon to have more than one dominant or backup style. The categories coded by the letters will be described on our next slide. Now that you have recorded your dominant and backup conflict management style, it is time to decode what the letters represent. The conflict management style quiz identifies 5 main styles of dealing with conflict that vary in their degrees of cooperativeness and competitiveness as laid out by the Thomas Kilmann theory. The theory suggests that individuals typically have a preferred style of conflict management that falls into one of the 5 categories, which in our quiz are aligned with an animal type. CS stands for competitive shark, CO, collaborating owl, AT, avoiding turtle, ATB, accommodating teddy bear, and CF, compromising fox. Keep in mind that each person's results will vary and situations can alter how a person handles conflict. This quiz is not only designed to help us understand our own conflict management styles, but others as well. Having the knowledge of how others may handle conflict allows us to understand people's reactions when confronted with conflict. The following slides explain in detail the meaning, characteristics, advantages, and disadvantages to each different style of conflict management. People who have a competitive conflict management style, or known as a competitive shark, take a firm stand and know what they want. They usually operate from a position of power and can be seen as forceful and challenging. Competitive sharks are highly goal-oriented and place less importance on maintaining relationships as they see conflict management as something that should be tackled aggressively. Sharks can be seen as persuasive, dominant, uncooperative, threatening, and intimidating. They have a need to be the winner in a conflict, meaning someone else has to lose creating clearly defined win-lose situations. Each conflict management style we will explore has both advantages and disadvantages. The advantage to having the competitive shark style is that when their decision is correct, a better decision can be implemented without negotiation, which can take long periods of time, and compromise, which may not always be a benefit based on the conflict at hand. However, the disadvantage of the competitive shark conflict management style is that when used unnecessarily, sharks can leave other people feeling disrespected, unsatisfied, hostile, and resentful. The competitive shark style can be useful in a number of different conflicts, such as when there is an emergency situation, conflict resolution is urgent, and decisions should be made quickly. Personal differences are an obstacle to resolution and become difficult to change or persuade into compromise. Decisions needing to be made are unpopular but necessary. Maintaining supportive relationships or friendly working relationships is not a priority. Defending against someone who may be attempting to exploit a situation in a selfish way or taking advantage of others that may be involved. People who identify as collaborative owls make attempts to meet the needs of all individuals involved in the conflict. They see conflicts as problems that need to be confronted through supportive team efforts. Collaborative owls are highly assertive and value their goals equally with their supportive working relationships. This conflict management style attempts to resolve conflict by finding solutions that are agreeable to all involved, creating win-win resolution situations where everyone involved gets what they need. The advantage of identifying as or adopting the collaborative owl style in conflict management is that all sides get what they want and need, which eliminates negative feelings and the idea of side taking. A major disadvantage to this style is that collaboration can take a great deal of time and effort, making it difficult or impossible to achieve at times. The collaborative owl conflict management style is most appropriate to use when maintaining and fostering supportive work relationships is an important priority. The situation is not urgent and time is of no real concern. Situations arise where peers or individuals involved are of equal standing or conflict within the group is reoccurring. When there is a need to learn about and bring different perspectives together or merge ideas. This situation is of high level of importance, and choosing one side over another is not an option. People who use an avoiding turtle style seek to evade or withdraw from conflict entirely. An avoiding turtle style can be seen as passive in behavior, as they tend to give up on their personal goals and accept the default decisions made in conflict resolution. They look to others with higher authority or the better ability to resolve conflict and make decisions that can solve the problems. An advantage of an avoiding turtle conflict management style can be that avoiding the conflict resolution process altogether can sometimes maintain relationships that may be damaged through the process. The disadvantage to this style is that conflicts can remain unsolved, and the overuse of the avoidance style can lead to an individual being taken advantage of. Appropriate times to use the avoiding turtle style of conflict management are when the stakes involved are not of high importance or when the conflict is of a trivial nature, confrontation and resolution that may take time or get heated will hurt a working relationship, when the situation seems impossible to resolve and there is minimal chance of satisfying your wants or goals. Others are in a better situation to effectively resolve the conflict, and time constraints demand a delay in progress. The accommodating teddy bear style indicates the willingness to meet the needs of others at the expense of the person's own goals or wants. The accommodator often knows when to give in to others, but can be persuaded or manipulated into surrendering their position, even if it's not necessary. This style of conflict management has an emphasis on maintaining supportive relationships and can be seen as highly cooperative. While cooperation is a strength of this style, the tendency to give up on their own goals can be seen as unassertive, which can create win-lose type of situations in which the accommodator is the loser of the conflict. The advantage of adopting the style of an accommodating teddy bear is that relationships are maintained above all else. While the disadvantage is that accommodating may not be productive and the individual may actually be taken advantage of. There are many appropriate times when this style can be effective, such as when maintaining a supportive working relationship is a top priority and outweighs all other considerations, when suggestions or changes are not of an important nature of the accommodating individual, or when time is limited and harmony and stability are valued in the face of conflict. The last of the 5 conflict management styles is the compromising fox. People who prefer a compromising style attempt to find solutions that will partially satisfy all involved in the conflict. Their main concerns surround achieving the overall goals of all involved while maintaining working relationships. According to the values of the compromising fox, everyone is expected to give in equally for the greater good of achieving their goals. The compromising fox is seen as both assertive and cooperative in their attempts in conflict resolution, which creates lose-win situations where each individual gives up an equal amount to achieve the overall goal of resolution. The advantage of the compromising fox style is that working relationships are maintained and the conflict is removed altogether. The disadvantage to this style is that compromise may create less than an ideal outcome, and game playing, lengthy negotiation, or manipulation can result when trying to come to an agreeable solution. The appropriate times to utilize the compromising fox style of conflict management are when important or complex issues have no clear options or simple solutions, all of the parties involved in the conflict are equal in power or authority and have strong interests in different solutions to the conflict, or there are no time constraints and there is adequate time to come to agreeable solutions for all of the parties involved. In this final section, we will explore different tools and strategies for successful conflict resolution that can be useful in the workplace. Self-reflection is an excellent tool that we have already tapped into through the Conflict Styles Management quiz completed in the previous section of the Conflict Resolution in the Workplace seminar. Using your knowledge of your dominant and backup styles of conflict management, as well as the information provided on the other styles of conflict management, can lead to better understanding of how individuals process and handle conflict in the workplace. Other tools we will explore in this section of this seminar are self-talk, the art of listening, and tips for resolving conflict. Self-talk is your inner voice. It is the voice in your mind which says the things that you don't necessarily say out loud. Often self-talk happens without you even realizing it and can be a subtle running commentary going on in the background of your mind. Self-talk can be positive or negative. When you hear someone say you are your own worst enemy, they are usually referring to your self-talk. That statement rings true for many people, as it is common for us to be our harshest critics when it comes to self-talk. This is important to remember because what you say in your mind can determine a lot of how you feel about who you are. The following are 3 things that you can do to help improve your self-talk and how you feel about yourself and about situations you can face. Number 1, listen to what you're saying to yourself. We don't always consciously take note of what we're saying in our own minds. The first step to improving your self-talk is to actually notice what your inner voice is saying. Take some time each day to listen to what you are thinking. Number 2, monitor your self-talk. Start questioning your self-talk and asking things like, is there actual evidence for what I'm thinking? What would I say if a friend were in a similar situation? Is there a more positive way of looking at this? Am I keeping everything in perspective? And can I do anything to change what I'm feeling bad about? It's important to note if your self-talk is leaning towards the more positive or the negative. And number 3, change your self-talk. I know it's easier said than done, but definitely worth working on. Try by countering your negative thoughts with positive ones. For example, if you think, I'll never be able to do this, ask yourself, is there anything I can do that will help me be able to do this better? And look for things that might add a better spin to a tough situation. Listening is a key skill used in conflict resolution. It allows us to clearly understand others' concerns, motives, and perspectives, which provides the groundwork for exploring equally acceptable solutions and eventually reaching the goal of conflict resolution. Follow these key points to ensure that you are actively listening when engaged in a conflict. Listen in order to understand. Don't lose focus by preparing for what you are going to say next. Experts say that most of human communication is nonverbal, so pay attention to more than just words. Notice the person's tone of voice, facial expression, body language, and other things. Try to put yourself in the speaker's shoes. Listen for feelings being expressed and attempt to understand from their perspective. Don't interrupt. Ask questions only if and when clarification is needed to further your understanding of the person's perspective or issue. Show your interest and empathy. This can encourage a speaker to say more and to dig deeper into an issue and identify the root of the problem. Put aside your own opinions for the time being. You can't listen to your own thoughts and someone else at the same time. And clear up misunderstandings before you begin your own talk. When you follow these tips for active listening, you begin to break down communication barriers which commonly cause or escalate existing conflicts. It can be difficult, especially when emotions are running high. However, the more you practice active listening, the easier it gets. Managing and resolving conflict requires the ability to quickly reduce stress and bring your emotions into balance. You can ensure that the process is as positive as possible by sticking to the following guidelines. Listen for what is felt as well as said. When we listen, we connect more deeply to our own needs and emotions and to those of other people. Listening also strengthens us, informs us, and makes it easier for others to hear us when it's our turn to speak. Make conflict resolution the priority rather than winning or being right. Maintaining and strengthening the relationship rather than winning the argument should be your first priority. Be respectful of the other person and his or her viewpoint. Keep mutual goals in mind and compromise if necessary. Focus on the present. If you're holding on to grudges based on past resentments, your ability to see the reality of the current situation will be impaired. Rather than looking to the past and assigning blame, focus on what you can do in the here and now to solve the problem. Pick your battles. Conflicts can be draining, so it's important to consider whether the issue is really worth your time and energy. Maybe you don't want to surrender a parking space if you've been circling the parking lot for 15 minutes, but if there are dozens of empty spaces, arguing over a single space isn't worth it. Be willing to forgive. Resolving conflict is impossible if you're unwilling or unable to forgive. Resolution lies in releasing the urge to punish, which can never compensate for our losses and only adds to our injury by further depleting and draining our lives. Know when to let something go. If you can't come to an agreement, agree to disagree. It takes two people to keep an argument going. If a conflict is going nowhere, you can choose to disengage and move on. When you keep these tips, tools, and strategies in mind when facing conflict, you will feel better prepared to handle it with confidence and successfully prove your conflict resolution skills. We have come to the end of the Conflict Resolution in the Workplace e-learning seminar. We hope that you have learned to better understand conflict and are feeling better prepared to face future conflicts with confidence. If you have further questions or would like to discuss your personal strategies when facing conflict in the workplace, or for more information about our free employment services and programs, contact St. Leonard's Community Services Employment Center in Brantford, Caledonia, or Dunnville. You can also find more information and other available seminars on www.stleonards.com/employment. We hope that you have enjoyed this e-learning seminar and would like to get your feedback with a brief survey. Thanks for participating and good luck in your future conflicts.